morning. I just posted an announcement. Tomorrow we're going to have a library day, so we won't meet for the Zoom class. Instead, you'll have the day to go online and nail down what controversy you're going to address for the next 2 papers. And we're going to go over the assignment you're going to do for Thursday. So if we head down here to the assignment list of upcoming assignments, in the library, you're going to be working on assignment 1 of the research project. This is for Thursday, the 18th. We'll go over it here in just a second. I don't know what language I'm speaking in the chat. Apologies. I think I missed a few words there. All right, let's take a look at the assignment you're going to be working on for Thursday. Okay. So if you click on this assignment, it brings up what you need to work on. So basically, you're going to go to the library tomorrow and you're going to look for a controversial topic that you want to spend the rest of the semester researching. And the first paper is a comparison and contrast that shows both sides of the controversy. And the final paper will be you deciding which position you agree with and then putting it into a paper, okay? So they're 1 topic, 2 papers. Does anybody have any questions about that? You'll be using the same topic, but in the next paper, you're not going to take a position, okay? You're going to explain both sides to me. But first, I want you to have at least 2 controversies that you might potentially do for the papers. I want you to have a backup in case you get into one of them and decide it's not what you want to do, or there's not enough research. And part of this is finding out if there's enough research to talk about the controversy you're looking at. So I'm going to ask you to briefly discuss the 2 controversies that you're considering, each in a paragraph. What are they about? Why did you choose them? Okay. 2, what general subject did you decide, which of these did you decide to go with? Okay. And then answer what led you to choose this one specifically, and a preliminary research question. We're going to talk more about research questions on Wednesday. Okay. And you can finish your preliminary research question for Thursday when it's due. We'll talk Wednesday and Thursday about those in class. And then the last one, do you have any concerns about doing the next papers? If so, then I can address those for you in class. Okay. So this is what is going to be due on Thursday by midnight. Does anybody have any questions so far? So as I said, we will not meet tomorrow. Instead, you're going to go to the library, to Holman Library, and you're going to look for a topic. And I suggest that you first go to the databases, okay? So if you access Holman Library through the My Apps page, you know, start with what he showed us with Primo Discovery Service. Actually, before you even go there to search for sources, go to the A to Z database and go to Opposing Viewpoints, which we've been looking at, right? Because it does list all of those controversies that have sources that can be used. It's going to narrow it down for you a bit. Signing me in. Which groups still need to do their presentation? If you guys can get ready. We're going to look at this really quickly and then hopefully shoot into the next presentation. So, Opposing Viewpoints. Okay. Again, you go to the A to Z database list, you go to the O's alphabetically, and you go to Opposing Viewpoints, and it lists all of these controversies divided under topics. Okay. So go here and find 2 topics, and then you can go to ProQuest and start pulling research for the next assignment. You're going to do an annotated bibliography. Questions about what's coming up? Do we have the groups here who need to finish their presentation? Excellent question. A controversy I am defining as something that's currently happening right now. So not something that's an old topic or historical. For the purposes of this assignment, it's currently happening, and there are reasonable opinions on both sides. And so you don't want to argue something that no one's going to argue against. So like child abuse is bad. We really hope that there's no one out there arguing child abuse is good. Now, there are some people who consider methods of discipline, physical discipline, not to be abuse, which is a different thing, like corporal punishment is spanking. Yes, abortion would be one. Okay, Camilla, do you know, it occurs to me, unfortunately, too late, that the time change may have not been realized by people who are not necessarily in the country attending. So they may not be here because they think we're going to meet an hour later. So hold that thought then, and we will have you guys go on Wednesday. Is there anyone else, another group here? Because I think most people I'm looking at have already gone. Yeah, Grant, I'm thinking that she may not be aware of the time change because she is not attending from the United States. Unfortunately, I did not think of this in enough time to email everyone. So let's reschedule the presentations, the finished presentations for Wednesday. As I said, tomorrow you're going to do library work. So Wednesday we will finish the presentation. Let's talk more about what a controversy is. So like I said, you don't want to argue things that don't have a reasonable opinion on the other side, okay? Okay. You want to have something, and that's why I'm suggesting going to Opposing Viewpoints. because most of these topics have reasonable opinions on both sides. Remember the authority list that we did early on? It's not a bad idea to go back to that list of things that you know about and are interested in, hobbies, things like that, and take a look and see if there's something that you could find, because it doesn't have to be a serious heavy duty topic. I've had people do things like fighting in hockey because they like hockey, or the effect of reality television on our society. But you need to narrow it down, whatever it is. So somebody mentioned abortion. You can't do all of abortion in a small paper, right? So another good way is, once you figure out what your topic is. So if we look at the abortion section, it's got a general definition. So you're going to do a little background reading to make sure you're interested enough in it. But under the viewpoints, you can look at different aspects, because they're not, some of them are trying to deal with a lot of issues about abortion, but most of them have narrowed it down to a certain thing, like, should parents have to give consent for somebody who's underage to have an abortion, or the abortion pill and its legality, late-term abortions, birth control in general. So these are the featured viewpoints, but there are more than that. There are far more than that up here. So if you don't find any in the featured, don't forget that you can go to the top of the page and look at all of the viewpoints, if none of the ones under the highlighted section are doing it for you. So anti-abortion lawmakers, like for right now, to do a current aspect, because you don't want to do the same arguments that have been done to death. Like when life begins, that's pretty much been covered on both sides extensively. So you don't want to beat a dead horse, if you guys know that expression, or rehash something that's really been thoroughly investigated already. You want to look at a new aspect of it. So several states have just passed anti-abortion laws in order to challenge the Supreme Court, now that there's a new makeup for the Supreme Court. So you could take a look at what some of that legislation is, and discuss both sides of it in the next article. Okay. So look at something that's currently relevant, or approving the abortion pill, or parental consent is still an ongoing. So you guys follow me? Something that's current about the issue. Same with gun control. The argument that the Second Amendment gives us the right to bear arms has been done to death. Okay, you want to look at a new aspect of it. So there are lots of gun control laws that are being proposed. They just passed one, I think, in the House for background checks, and that seems to be popular. So you could look at the implications of that and see what both sides are saying about that law. Okay. But narrow your topic. Once you pick your topic, that's the next step. Okay. Narrow it down to a smaller portion that you can talk about in a short paper. You can't talk about every aspect of an issue in a short paper. You have to pick a small slice to deal with. As far as I'm concerned, the smaller the better. You can always expand your topic. It's really hard to retract it, to bring it in without losing a lot of work. So same thing, let's take a look at another executive compensation. The top, we'll just look at that, okay? They talk about economic inequality in the United States, how many people, like I think 3 people have more wealth than the bottom 50% of Americans. 3 people have more than, there are like roughly 360 million people in America. So 3 people are richer than about 160, 70 million of us. So that's interesting, right? So average CEO earnings. So you could do a paper on, should CEOs earn it, or do they deserve that money? Because there are arguments that they deserve it for their, skills. Is rising CEO pay immoral? again, these are featured viewpoints. There are more viewpoints you can look at if you don't like those. Income inequality is higher in the United States than elsewhere. Corporate executives should be paid less. So you want to look at one slice of the issue that interests you. Does anybody have any topics? Now, you don't have to, like, once you claim a topic, somebody else can do the same topic. I don't have a problem with that because you're going to do it pretty differently. Probably you may even take opposite opinions on it. That's fine. As long as you back up what you're saying with evidence, don't worry about my opinion about it. I'm only judging you on your use of evidence. Okay? Any topics anyone's thinking about? We can work on narrowing them down. Equality for immigrants, okay. When you say equality, do you mean access to education, or tell me more? You guys help her out, maybe ask some questions. So the Dreamers program covers educational access. So basically, if you were brought here by your parents, you can attend college if you apply as a dreamer. Economic access to better education, have a better economic status. Yeah. I know they're thinking about several amnesty programs, so you could look at how those programs might help with economic equality. Let's look at some of what they have on Opposing Viewpoints and see if they have any ways we can narrow it down. So DACA, which is the Dreamers program, which allows kids who are brought to the country access to higher education. Because if you don't have American citizenship, generally, unless you're applying from another country, you can't attend college. Right? So you can look at the featured viewpoints, see what they got here. We can type immigration and economic opportunity. Immigration, or this is one thing they talk about, being concerned that people who immigrate will be a drain on the welfare system, versus if you allow them to work, then they're not. It's an interesting catch-22. Illegal immigration does not threaten immigration reform will protect American workers. So we can look at some more viewpoints. Another place to look is in books, because they have chapter headings that divide up the topic. So you can see you have both. So this might be the opposing view, because you're going to need both sides of your topic. So if you're going to argue that immigrants deserve more economic opportunities, there are going to be people who say, well, they're taking jobs away from American workers. So this would be your opposing side that you would discuss in your comparison. Okay. So immigration benefits the economy. There are some studies that show when immigrants come into an area, they tend to revitalize it. The United States is capable of creating enough jobs for both citizens and immigrants. Here's one: the effects of illegal immigration on the American economy. And then once you have the topic, we can go into the library discovery service, right? And the economy. And sometimes you have to ask it in a lot of different ways in order to get, right? Immigration policy in the American economy. Okay. Now, fortunately, typing that only got us 94 results, but don't forget, you can narrow things down, especially you want to narrow it down by when it was published, because things that are published long ago aren't as relevant to the immigration crisis, because I asked you guys to pick something that's going on right now, right? So you can go and narrow it down. So this one goes from 1981. Let's see what happens if we say 2000. See if it took. I don't know why they make you apply the filters. So I got rid of about 10 results, but at least I know. So let's make it maybe a little stricter. We'll go 2010. Because you don't want to have to look through 100 sources. Especially you don't want to have to look through thousands of sources, right? $57. I cut it almost in half, right? And then if you find a book that's online, you can look at the chapter headings, okay? So One Nation, Two Realities, Dealing Facts in American Democracy, Model Immigrants and Undesirable, the Cost of Immigration Reform in the 90s. That's not quite current. Demography and the Economy. So The Making of a Dream, How a Group of Young Undocumented Immigrants Helped Change What It Means to be American. That sounds interesting. High Skilled Migration. So you kind of look through. So some of these books don't sound like they're about immigration, but they may have chapters on immigration that you can use. So don't dismiss it out of hand if it doesn't say immigration in the title. So this one actually looks promising. This one's available online. And you can look at the description. View online. Get the ebook. You'll have to go in and but then you can look at the chapter headings and see how they divide up the issue. So then it signs me in. Unfortunately, it's going to make me look for the book again. But you really want to narrow down your topic. But like I said, don't try to read the whole book. You're going to pick out the parts of the book that are relevant to your topic. Because although I'd love it if you could read the whole book, generally we don't have time when we're doing research to go that in depth. Although that would be nice. If we had a class just devoted to several topics like immigration, that would be awesome. So once you have your topic, you can go and look and see what kinds of resources. Now I was looking in books, I think, back to look at the databases. So then I was looking in the library catalog. Do not forget to select databases or you're going to miss a lot of good sources. Sorry, not cooperating today. Let's see if it likes another word. When in doubt, go back to the library main page. Again, I got to go here and select, do I want articles? Do I want the databases? And then you have to narrow it down, right? Remember how he showed us? It's slow today. Well, that's not possible. So apparently it's just not cooperating today, which is why I'm going to give you all day to look in the library. Let's try articles. Again, lots of results for immigration. Add some words to knock it down a bit. Oh, we're under 1 million. The 1500s is a bit long ago to talk about immigration. Let's try just the last, 2023 has not happened yet, so I don't know how they're finding sources from 2023, but that's interesting. Let's try 2015. And I cut that in half. Resource type. Do you want a newspaper article, book chapters, text, web resources, government documents? I want it in English. I want it about the United States. I think I'm going backwards. So you can go in here and decide if you want to look at book chapters, and maybe when you're narrowing down for assignment number 1, see what it's talking about. So this has a book chapter on immigration, but again, it may not be talking about the time period that you're looking at. Okay. Subject, let's see what subjects we have. Do we want to talk about politics, public policy, political economy? Then we've narrowed it down, and you can keep narrowing it by adding keywords. They talk about a brain drain from other countries coming to the United States. What other topics are you guys thinking about? Claire, tell me more what you're thinking about vaccines. About whether to get the coronavirus vaccine or vaccines in general or vaccines for children, or which part?
I was just thinking about like whether it is safe to take a vaccine or not, like for the risk for anyone, since like studies and articles show about like side symptoms when taking the vaccine the first time or the second time?
The only caution with that is because it's so new, make sure there may not be enough long-term studies looking at people taking the second vaccine to support whether or not, I mean, we've got the reactions like the anaphylaxis, I know. That would be my only caution for that one, would be to, you could probably do a risk-benefit analysis. Is it more dangerous not to have the vaccine versus taking it? But yeah, I mean, it's definitely a controversy. Just make sure there's enough research that can show both sides. Does that make sense?
Yes, thank you.
And that's one of the things I want to do with these research assignments, guys, is make sure that once you get into it, you have sources that are going to support what what both sides' views are, and then eventually what you want to say about the topic and what position that you want to take. But yeah, vaccines is definitely one you can do as a larger topic. You just may have to narrow it to something that has enough resources. There's also what's popular, drug legalization. Most places are legalizing marijuana. I'd really be interested in seeing, like, a lot of places have had it legal for several years, and I would like to see what the effect is on their economy. Like, is it beneficial to their economy? Has it had no effect? I don't know. So you could argue drug legalization is beneficial to the economy, or it does not benefit the economy, or, that's one aspect of it. What else is going on in the news these days? Voting rights. There are a lot of laws being proposed now to restrict voting rights, require signature matches. Some people say this is an effort to keep people from voting. So the other side says it's to make voting safer. So this is a genuine and legitimate controversy that I've heard about recently. What else we got going on? What are you guys hearing about? Are there any controversies in sports? A lot of your athletes. Racism with Latino American people, yeah. There have been a lot of attacks on Asian people also in California, because China was associated with the coronavirus. But yeah, racism in general has been a huge topic recently. So you could do an aspect of racism in the United States. Yeah, just be sure to narrow it down. Do you mean in education? Do you mean economically, jobs, politics, that kind of thing? Yeah, that's a good topic. You guys, a lot of your athletes, are there any sports controversies? Anything I haven't heard about? I think I've heard that they're like conflicting laws. One state has passed a law allowing transgender athletes to compete as females, and another state has banned it. So that's one I've heard about. Paying college players, right? That's been one that's come up fairly recently. Should they pay basketball and football players who are in college and generating a lot of money? But but then some people argue that scholarship is their compensation, right? So there are legitimate opinions on both sides. See what else is going on. They are talking about immigration bills. You could look at one of the immigration bills and its effect on the economic opportunities of immigrants. Oh, they're talking about like a double standard for domestic terrorists versus foreign terrorists, which is interesting. Do we treat them differently? Then should Governor Cuomo resign? He's been accused of sexual harassment. There's the Iranian nuclear deal. What effect do you think the stimulus will have on the economy? Will it help the economy recover from coronavirus? In England, there are big protests going on right now because a woman was murdered, allegedly, since he hasn't been convicted yet, by a police officer. And then they had a vigil, but those meetings are outlawed because of coronavirus. So the police were considered to use excessive force by some, and others were like, well, they shouldn't have been there. So legitimate opinions. Okay. Let's see. Apparently Americans are moving. What about spring break? Should people go on spring break with the coronavirus winding down? A lot of states are lifting their restrictions. Some people feel it's too early. Some people say it's necessary for the economy. That's a legitimate controversy. So yeah, those are some things going on right now. They're talking about some of the current, you want to look at like one part of the stimulus bill if you're going to do that. So supposedly it's going to lift a lot of kids out of poverty. Some people disagree with that. You can talk about, here's an interesting law that was just passed in Kentucky, which I think is a nightmare, which basically says that if someone says something to the police that would cause a reasonable person to be angry, then it's a crime. Which seems like a serious free speech issue. Let me see if I can find that. I don't know. It basically, if they can, anything you say to a police person that they would interpret as, I guess, inflammatory or insulting the police, that seems problematic. But yeah, that would be an excellent topic since it's been in the news. So yeah, Kentucky Senate votes to criminalize insulting police in a way that could cause a violent response from the police. I'm not sure what you supposedly could say to somebody that would justify violence against them. Let's see what it says. It would make it a misdemeanor to taunt or challenge an officer with words or gestures that would have a direct tendency to provoke a violent response from the perspective of a reasonable and prudent person. But since the police have more authority, like generally people who are just out in society are not held to the same standard as someone who can shoot you. So it would seem to be possibly problematic that the police can charge you for being what they interpret as disrespectful. I mean, I don't know. What do you guys think? Should it be a crime to piss off the cops? Or should they basically have training to, I mean, I know they get a lot of abuse. I have family members who are in law enforcement. And I don't believe that you should, but I also am not sure about criminalizing what people say to police. Because if the police are the ones who are interpreting that and we already have problems with uses of